Just wait for a few seconds for everyone to join. Sure. Good to go. Cool. We'll give people a few minutes to join, then I'll give a short intro. Sure. Let me start. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. Today we have Dr. Pingali to talk about managing organizational knowledge in future stores. I let him deep dive into the topic himself. But before that, a brief introduction about Dr. Venkata. He's a co-founder and CEO of Scribble Data. If you have been to Python conferences earlier, you must have noticed him. Last year, he was with us to talk about deploying and managing production data preparation pipelines. So let's hear from him this time. It's over to you, Dr. Venkata.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks to PyCon Hyderabad again for giving me the opportunities to speak. Looks like I've done a reasonable job last year. But this time I'm going to talk about slightly unconventional stuff. So something that has been at the top of our mind for almost 9 months now. The first thing that happened after last December, there was this PyCon, and then we go off to our offices. We keep doing whatever, and then the COVID hits. The first thing that happened during this COVID is engineers, all the top engineers of my key clients left. And it was quite a shock to them. And of course, because there has been a tremendous amount of upheaval around March, April timeframe, the data that was being consumed in the various dashboards, analysis, and so on, it was all over the place. And one of the big problems is they didn't have an understanding of, is this real or is this because of bugs? Can we trust them? And they had to depend more on data because the past experience was not as indicative of the current situation or going forward. And the third thing is that analysis and models that they had, they all were not ready for this Two Sigma kind of an event. So we spend a lot of time talking to our clients and partners in the industry to understand what is happening and what we have learned through this process. And there are basically 4 lessons I believe that we have learned. The first thing is that in a highly uncertain world where you are more dependent on the data, you really need the data to be trustworthy. And the systems that deliver this data to be very transparent. The second thing is that you are reacting very fast with evolving situations. So you need something that is very responsive, something that is very nimble. And the third one, it's a big thing that we learned is that there is a lot of knowledge that is in people's heads. And it is a very significant risk to the organization as well as the individuals owning these platforms if all this knowledge is in people's minds. And here we are already accounting for all the code documentation and things like that. And what we discovered is that there is fair amount of knowledge that goes well beyond the code. And the last thing is that everybody else in the organization is very interested in data and their data systems because their work depends on that. The CFOs, for example. So when we learned all of these things, we started wondering what do we do about all of these things, and how are people coping with it across the world. Um, and we had an interesting vantage point. Our product is something called as a feature store. It sits between the data lake and the data models, and the data gets prepared in the feature store and then gets delivered to the models. And so this gives us a glimpse into the left hand side, which is the data collection processes, and the right hand side, the consumption process. And this is a very good vantage point for us to understand what is happening overall and what were the expectations. And we have many stakeholders that we talk to, everything from DevOps to product to the data engineers and so on. And we learned about emerging requirements of this feature store, and that is really what I'm here to share. How did focusing on one particular aspect, which is the knowledge management. Now, if you look at the feature store itself, when you zoom in a little bit, there are several components to it. Don't worry about the details. The only key thing is that it's actually a longer process, both from a computation standpoint as well as from there is fair amount of complexity here. We have given talks about this architecture in the past, so you can look at any of our previous talks to get a sense of what this system is. The key thing I'm going to focus is that this is a data system. There is a lot of code here. There is a lot of data here. Is there knowledge, right? And so we started looking at it very closely and saying, okay, what kind of knowledge is required to understand, operate this system, and where is this knowledge, right? And we started systematically deconstructing this entire pipeline process and started identifying different places. For example, let's take the very simple case of a pipeline that is generating a data set. It has a bunch of parameters. Usually when we go into production with a certain set of parameters, there's usually a lot of history to it. You would have experimented with a bunch of different parameter choices, and you would have chosen some subset of algorithms, some set of thresholds, and so on. It did not happen just by accident. And all of this is typically in the minds of the ML engineer designing all of these things. So if the ML engineer one day vanishes, you have to struggle to understand how to change these parameters, why these parameters and not somebody else, why these values and not something else. And we found that during the entire life cycle of the process, as well as the technology, we have knowledge heavy activities at every step. And so we started asking, okay, how do we systematically manage this? And naturally, and how much of it is remaining, right, in the system. So it turns out that there are people who have explored this question of how do we understand tacit knowledge in organizations and so on. There is a bunch of tests. What we realized is that this is a fairly significant focus of especially on the business side. Leaving that aside for a moment, I think a key test is the first one, which is that can the organization, can the pipeline, can the data set operate and be consumed if a key engineer walks out of your organization. That's a good test to know how much knowledge is there in a given system. So it's not that people don't know and somehow we magically arrived at this understanding that there is knowledge. People have been looking at this in the past, and we all know about wikis, doc strings. There are lots of documents that are written on Jira. There is lots of issues and so on. Now, we started asking ourselves, why is this not enough? right? Why can't we use all the existing services, given that massive amount of infrastructure exists, open source and otherwise, about this particular aspect. So what we found is that there is our needs are evolving, and we have a slightly different need. We are in this online world. We have like so many things to do, and just figuring out where the wiki is itself. Like yesterday, I was having a conversation with a client. The first thing is, oh, like it's there on Confluence. The first question that arose in my mind is, what is the URL of the Confluence? Do I even have an account? Because something happened some many months back. I don't remember any details of it. So the first problem is that, or what we really need is new approaches that will make this thing less cognitively intensive. If it requires too much amount of effort, attention, and things like that, it's not going to work. And that is where some of the existing approaches fail. What we need is whatever be our activity, we have a way by which we are able to look up this knowledge. We are able to find some recommendations about what should you be looking for. Something that is relatively usable and recent. And I know something else about what other people have done in and around the particular issue of concern to us. And what we started doing is systematically identifying the different use cases at different point in time, and looking for solutions out there. What are the new methods that exist today, going well beyond wikis and doc strings and so on, that we assume is there in every organization. We need something beyond that. And our requirements were, first thing is, whatever be the activity, it has to be there right in the context. Second thing, if I'm doing a particular activity, it has to do somehow, it has to relate to it. It has to be relatively lighter in terms of understanding. This is where the storytelling approach comes, and so on. So interestingly, what we ended up is, suddenly we saw immense amount of value in some of the new social media approaches. And so the first thing, before I come to that, the first thing that we needed is, whatever be the mechanism by which you capture the knowledge, it should be available at a place where you are trying to solve the problem. So what you're seeing on the screen is a screenshot of a particular run, and whatever knowledge base that we have, it has to be available next to the run. It can't be available somewhere away, and I have to go to a different page, a different system. For example, you have to be able to click no more right there as you are debugging a pipeline, and get whatever knowledge that is available that the system knows, right? Same, if you are looking at data sets, I don't want to be going away to a different web page and different system. I want it in place, because I'm looking at customer persona. I want to know what other people have thought about customer persona. Why is it like this and not some other way? I want all that information right there. So the first thing is in place, which is really important for us. And once the interesting thing is that it's been a journey for us itself at Scribble. The more we started making this knowledge available, we started clicking on it, and we started looking at what we know about customer persona. And I'll tell you a few ways by which we are trying to find interesting knowledge to capture and surface. So I was mentioning about Loom and TikTok. At Scribble, we have turned into fans of this, short video format. And the reason seems to be that oftentimes when there is wiki, what is missing is an authentic voice, the character that has written that document. And what we started doing, and we have adopting it very significantly in our daily activity, is a Loom-like video. So we put the screen, whatever be the content, and we speak out for about 2 minutes. Whatever is there at the top of our mind, about that particular issue, because these are all the things that other people don't know about. And me as a designer, as an operator of this pipeline, I'm carrying all of that knowledge. So we have now made integration with Loom a default capability in our platform, and we see actually more use of it. When we showed this to our customers like loved it, and we ourselves are liking it. And the one of it seems to be a very natural medium, right? Much like how I am doing today. So today you have some screens on the left hand side, and you have me speaking on the right hand side. That is what this combination of the two is what makes this approach powerful. And we discovered this like a few months back, and we started doing more and more of it every single day. And whenever we record these videos, we make it available as through this knowledge base. Here, for example, you can see HDIP overview. Some of it may be slides, it could be documents, it could be videos. But the moment you have a Loom video, it is available in that particular context. This is another thing that we are doing. When you are looking at a particular pipeline and it has failed in some way, you are spending a lot of time thinking about why did it fail? Like, did it fail yesterday? Did it fail today? Is it going to fail tomorrow? And so on. So we started adding small ability to comment on various elements of the pipeline. For example, here we are saying, okay, now I can see that exception. This is why the exception is happening. And later, the same exception is available for you and for everybody else. So tomorrow, let's say, or 5 weeks from now, if it fails, you come back and see, okay, what do we know about this particular pipeline? And this information can be surfaced. And similarly, we started parsing the content of this exception and asking, okay, is there something in our a database of problems? Can we look it up, or should we look up Stack Overflow? Right there in the middle of that process. For us, in place, in context, at the time when you're looking at the problem, these are the big things that you need to achieve. That the wikis and the code strings and all of these things were not able to achieve, in my opinion. There are a few other things. This is an example. So here what we wanted is, let's say a pipeline breaks, and the data scientist or ML engineer has modified the code, and he or she is trying to rerun the system again. You want to ask one or two questions. Why did this fail? Right? What do we know about this failure? So that next time when it fails, somebody can look at it and say, okay, now I know the history of this particular pipeline. Right? 3 months back, something happened. I know that the same problem appeared before, and this is what we did. This came about because in our clients, the DevOps wanted to get involved. Traditionally, pipelines were not something that they were looking at, but they wanted to start managing this pipeline. The only problem is they didn't write the pipelines, and they never look inside the data. So they had no idea what a particular pipeline did. And this is something that excited them a lot, because now, if nothing else, when the call comes at 3 a.m. in the morning saying that my pipeline has failed, at least you have some history to go back with, and you'll get some hints, and you're not completely lost. And because finding the right ML engineer to look at pipelines as the number of pipelines grows itself is a significant challenge. And also, we started doing things like, can we extract, we started looking at, can we extract knowledge from the code itself and surface it in a way that people can understand. So what you are seeing here is, for example, flow of the data, right, within the pipeline itself. Only some of these boxes end up as data sets. But you know the journey that the data has been in order to arrive at a given a given state. And similarly, if there is some documentation in the pipeline, we started surfacing it quite extensively so that people can understand the background and the context for a given data set much more easily than before. And we will keep doing this, and we are looking at adding more and more elements, because it sounds like both for us as systems developer, for our clients who are building and maintaining these pipelines, suddenly it became quite interesting, because they know the turbulence that they have gone through in the last few months, and they started giving us feedback and actively engaging with us and saying, okay, I need this and I need this other thing. When we asked them, why do you care, about all of these things, and they gave a bunch of reasons, and these were some of the reasons that they gave, in addition to what we observed from outside. One thing that we did not appreciate as much at the beginning is how important system reliability was. If basically the analytical process, the modeling process stops if you are not sure that the system is stable. And there is very significant cost associated with that disruption. The second thing is that you're building ever more complex pipeline with fewer and fewer data scientists. So the operational costs and the debugging costs are rising very, very rapidly. And this they understand, but it wasn't quite apparent to us from outside. And they're also concerned about newer things like privacy. During the whole process, we learned about a bunch of data security issues that they had to encounter, because people were leaving, because people were unhappy, because people were working remotely, and so on. So they started looking at this as a potential approach as well for those kinds of problems. And this is one thought that I want to leave you with. See, when we started out about a few years back, looking at data itself, this was mostly through our own conviction that trust in data is really important for you to do all of that analysis. And what we have discovered over a period of time is that there's a whole lot of dimensions that we don't realize exist for the data itself. And in 2020, as models are getting more and more commoditized and baked into the libraries, as the security and privacy concerns are growing, as the churn in the data science is growing, what we realized is that having very strong data foundations is required for organizations. And our own experience as Scribble is telling us what are all the different dimensions that are important. And here we put a few of them. My recommendation is whether or not you think about Scribble. I think our experience reflects our learnings about data over the past so much time. So I would recommend that you also, these slides are available. We shared it with the organizers. I'm sure it'll be available to you. My suggestion is that take a look at this evolution, some of the aspects that we talked about. So let me stop there and ask if there are any questions. And one plug for Scribble itself. We are a fairly hot company and we are growing fast. We are looking for senior ML engineers. If you're interested, or if you know somebody who would be interested, please let us know. With that, let me I still have about 7 minutes. If there are any questions, then we can take them.
Thanks, Dr. Venkata. That was a lovely session. Before the other questions chime in, I have a question. So the sense I get is that this is kind of notion where all types of documents are in one place and you're trying to integrate it. I mean, what are the challenges that you see in terms of existing organizations adapting it? Because there's a lot of legacy systems, in place.
Yeah, so that is you caught exactly the hard problem I nicely sidestepped, right? And I did not address. I think that it is inevitable. There will be, in our case, because we control the platform completely, we could make whatever modifications to our platform and do it really fast, integrate Loom and TikTok and whatever. All of those things are possible. We are not, bogged down by the organizational. The processes and so on. But I see this as a very significant challenge to larger organizations. One thing that we see across the board is massive ramp up in the data and the modeling work. And I don't see how you will escape some of these problems. And the challenge is that now you have to solve this in the big companies context, which is quite hard. And so I yeah, I don't have good answers, except saying that there are some lessons in our journey for the past so many months, and whatever we are showing today is the result of experimentation, continuous experimentation that has happened over the past 6 to 8 months. And we have become a strong believer in video and storytelling and Loom, TikTok. All of these things are we hadn't anticipated that these will be so high in our minds at the end of the year, and here we are.
Right. Thanks for answering that. One other follow-up question, I guess, is you mentioned the importance of storytelling because it kind of integrates back into whatever you're building. What kind of modifications you have to make for the existing people? Because I guess when talk about engineering and building pipelines, I would imagine tech people not really into storytelling. How did you adapt?
How did you adapt? Are you talking about technology elements in our product, or are you talking about the process and organization elements at our clients?
Talking about adapting storytelling from your personal standpoint.
Yes. So the thing is that one is, of course, making it really easy, right? To use a medium that works very naturally to you. So one of the changes that we are going to do in the next couple of months to our platform is to record a video right there itself. The moment you have a thought, you have a question, you have a problem, you record it right then and there. I think, but it can easily become a swamp of all of this content, much like social media. So one thing that we are thinking long and hard about is what are the kinds of processes that we now have to bring in around the storytelling elements to make the process interesting and manageable, right? And the second part that we are also looking at is, let's say that somebody gives a 3-minute overview of the particular pipeline that they have built. We want to be able to automatically extract all the key elements and make sure that it becomes part of the metadata, and it can be used elsewhere. So we are looking at not just automatic text extraction, but also text analysis in order to characterize the pipeline, the data sets, and all the artifacts associated with the pipelines. So there is a bunch of work that is coming in the next 6 to 8 months around all of these things.
Got it. Thanks for answering that. I hope some of the attendants will be interested to apply over there.
Feel free to reach out. It took us some time for this idea to sink in. I'm happy to be brainstorming with folks if they're interested. You have my contact. Please write to us.
Sure. I also shared this in the event chat. We
Okay.
are almost at the end of the time. Yeah. Thank you again for your session. It was
Thanks
lovely.
for hosting. Thanks to PyCon, and looking forward to more talks during the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.